Yo, still bills, what's the deal, man? I'm fresh off the motherfucking clock, hair nappy and matted as a motherfucker, man. But I'm heading home. But peep game, man, I want to talk about it's a dude on my channel who he replies on a lot of my videos and shit, man. And it's always a dope, healthy dialogue between me and him, man. It's never, even in disagreement, it's never nothing disrespectful. Those are the type of dialogues I look forward to. And I respect. I'm able to learn from him a lot more so than he may think, man. He really, extends my vocabulary every time I get done talking to the dude, man. But it's a dude on there named David Gordon Lane, and the discussion is always dope between me and him, man. It's really, it's just dope, man. And I want to. This is gonna segue into what it is we're talking about, man. I've been real vocal on Lomachenko and how he's being, clapped at for allegedly fleeing to Greece with his family instead of picking up arms and fighting on behalf of his people and defending his homeland. Because I thought it was real disingenuous and insincere how people were doing them, because they only brung it up that, it wasn't from a sense of patriotism and, I fought in the war when we were attacked on 9/11 and it wasn't coming from a sense of that. It was coming from a sense of, you fucked Devin Haney out of an undisputed title match with George Kambosos, so you need to go over there and focus on what's going on in between the Ukraine and Russia, so Devin Haney can get interjected back into the conversation. That's what I took problem with. Because, yeah, these cats are modern day gladiators. They're warriors, but they're warriors within their own right, man. These dudes are not, I don't really know of a history with them a part of the Ukrainian army. I don't. And what was another sting, what added insult to injury to me was they didn't share that same sentiment when it came to Victor Postol, because he was fighting Gary Antoine Russell. They didn't share that same sentiment, man. It was just, if Victor Postol said, yo, I'm about to go and pick up arms on behalf of my people in my homeland, and he dropped out of a fight with Gary Russell Jr., what would they have said about him? Oh, he a duck, he running, he this and that and the third, and yada yada yada. And because he needed that win over Victor Postol to somewhat, to gauge where he's at, if he's ready to go to that next level. And I want to do a video on that stoppage too, because I didn't agree with that stoppage. But I feel like he would have been met with criticism had he decided to do that. Why? Because that helps propel the career of a black fighter, a young black fighter with all the talent and skill in the world to be successful. So that would have helped propel to him if Victor, with a win over Victor Postol. So I just thought, like, y'all sentiment is all over the place. Y'all clap at Devin Haney, y'all clap at Lomachenko, but y'all ain't saying shit about Victor Postol. Now, with all that being said, as I said in the video, I'm not caping and I'm not throwing on the capes and I'm suspended off Facebook until like next week, but I'm not making a whole bunch of Facebook statuses as it pertains to the war over there in the Ukraine. I'm not putting on the cape. I'm not giving them a shoulder to cry on. I can be sympathetic towards, the acts of violence that's being inflicted on innocent civilians. Moms and dads have to flee to safety with their kids. That is a scary thing to be in, man. That's a scary situation to be in. And I mean, my wife was just telling me, yeah, it was a man driving a car over there in the Ukraine, and he happened to come across Russian soldiers in a tank, and they intentionally ran over his car with that tank. That's twisted. That's real twisted, man. And it's like, god damn. So you can be you can be sympathetic towards the plight that these people are, facing right now, man. But when I say I can't give them a shoulder to cry on, this is what I mean. And this is what I mean because I'm gonna cover a broad of different situations as it pertains to my people and why I don't cape for anybody else. But in particular, we'll start with the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, there's black African students who are getting kicked off of buses and trains and any other sort of public transportation to ensure that Ukrainian men and women, not men, but women and children in particular, get on these public forms of transportation to safety. Now you would think, these are people who are not of this nation. We actually encourage them to come over here and pick up medicine and all that shit, and we encourage them to come over here into our universities over here to practice medicine and yada yada yada. So in one sense, you're kind of opening the doors for them to come over there, just for them to get over there and be mistreated in times like this. It's also people, brothers and sisters over there as well, black brothers and sisters as well from Africa, who are forced to walk hours and hours upon hours and upon hours upon hours to the Polish border to get out of the conflict zone. And a lot of times, from what I'm hearing, they're being turned away. They're being denied entry into the country. Now you gotta mind you, man, when you talk about walking in the, because it ain't like these people are taking the main roads. They're ducked off in the wooded areas, the wooded areas, and we in March. If I'm sure their weather patterns over there mirror the United States, man. So if it's still winter in a lot of places, and we're still feeling the brunt of winter in a lot of places. Not necessarily here, because it's a beautiful day out here. It's been a beautiful day the entire week, but it's brutal over there. Their winters are brutal over there, brutal. And we're just now getting in March within this week. They've been talking invasion the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And these people are being denied. They're being denied, man. So think about how fucked up that is. And when you're in them wooded areas, I mean, the Ukraine was once a part of Russia. You don't think it's still, predatory wildlife that's wandering in them woods? They got tigers in Russia. You know how dangerous that is? That's dangerous. That puts you in immediate conflict with those types of creatures. And not just that. Who's to say that they, you liken the chances of you coming across conflict between the two nations when you have to cover that much space, and you can only move so fast as a human being. You dig? Who's to say that Russian soldiers aren't looking to invade that part, get into the country from that particular wooded area that they have to march through to get to the border of Poland? And as they're walking there, who's to say that the Ukrainians aren't setting up shop over there in the wild, in them wooded areas? So it gets deeper than actually motherfuckers, being in harm's way of getting bombs and everything, dropped on them. And it's a bit deeper than that. And having to face tanks, it's a bit deeper than that. It's real cynical. You dig? How to imagine being in the most subjugating situation and still finding time to subjugate somebody else. You dig? We can get real deep into this shit, man. The neo-Nazi movement is still prevalent over there in the Ukraine. It's still prevalent. Now, I'm not going to openly indict every individual Ukrainian. I absolutely won't do that. I won't do that. But we have to look into your history, and we have to look at what's going on, because I mean, where are the Ukrainian politicians and news reporters and any sort of media outlets that are speaking against, mistreatment of African people over there, African students, African families? Where are they on all this? Where are they on all this? It's somewhat being buried, but there's footage of this shit. People are acting like we don't have. I'm able to talk to y'all through my fucking phone. I'm able to do this. I'm able to talk to. I'm able to make a video and broadcast it through the world over my phone. You dig me? So, because this is what I mean when I say I'm not giving him a shoulder to cry. I refuse to be the dude to do that. I won't be him. I will never be him. for situations like this. You can even take it a bit further, man, because I know you know, we got to speaking on the uprisings of a couple, you know, like last year and the year before. When all that shit kicked off with George Floyd, man, you got, at that time, that was, you know, during the pandemic. And where did the pandemic, you know, allegedly have its inception at? Was it Wuhan, China? In China, it was African people, once again, directly from the continent, who were being kicked out of their homes, and they were not being patronized in these restaurants when they, all right, cool, it's raining, I'm hungry, I just want to get something to eat. They were being denied. Now, mind you, China is creating its own empire over there in Africa. They're creating their own empire over there in Africa. These Africans are allowing them to do that. Come over there and saturate all the resources. And it's like they have no issue with it. This is what I mean by nationalism, man. That's unacceptable. Especially when you turn around and the people from the African continent in China are being completely mistreated by the Chinese, who are being welcomed with open arms in Africa. All the businesses and everything that's going on in Africa at the hand of the Chinese. You think about how twisted that is. We're allowing you to come over here just for our citizens in your homeland to be mistreated. That's fucked up. That's very much so fucked up. We're the black sheep of society, and this is why I don't allow myself to become a bleeding heart liberal to other people's plight. We are not respected in our own homeland. There's no reason why 2 million Dutch could be down there in South Africa with, you know, owning 80 and 90+% of the real estate down there. And imagine that they've created a space where black people are not even allowed in a land that they're not even indigenous to, and they are 2 million people. There's 2 million in a sea of over 18 to 20 million black faces. In their own, just think about how twisted that is. By law, they were mandated that, no, you can't, you know, we don't do business with Africans. We're building an empire of our own down here in Cape Town, South Africa, and all over the place in South Africa. This is what we're doing. We're building a land of our own. We're building a nation of our own. We're building an empire of our own. All those wealthy white neighborhoods in South Africa, and look at how a lot of Africans are living down there in huts and shanty towns and shit. That's on the up and up with y'all. That's what we doing. It's just it's the level of mistreatment of my people, man. Is just, I won't know. And to speak further into the George Floyd that rises up, you know, the George Floyd uprisings from a year or two ago. I remember, once again, the inception of this whole, you know, like I said, it was in COVID. It was during COVID. But the inception of COVID allegedly is at, you know, Wuhan in China. Chinese people here were having their businesses took a hit, especially their food businesses. A lot of Chinese restaurants were, you know, they weren't being patronized as they normally are. You know, we eat a lot of Chinese food in the black community. We do. Me, myself, personally, I eat a lot of Chinese food. I honestly do. Shout out to China Palace. I'm in there often. But they were also allegedly but I won't even say allegedly. I won't say allegedly at all. There were situations where, you know, Chinese people were feeling the brunt of, you know, xenophobia. They were feeling the brunt of, you know, subjugation and mistreatment and being bullied. Now, a lot of the shit was for political propaganda, and a lot of people think it was set up, which they have every right to think that. You have to keep your tinfoil koofies on as it pertains to this, man, because that was a political stunt. That was a political stunt. A lot of people were, you know, they were harmed. I won't be cynical and say that they wasn't, but there were a lot of people who was it was you know, sleight of hand trick. So now when that happened, it was certain set-asides that they got set for that, you know, specifically for Asians, man. Call this hotline, you dig? And if somebody is being xenophobic and uttering racial epithets, they could be punished by law. They could be fined and punished. You talking jail time and $1,000 out of your pocket, $500 out of your pocket, just for, you know, uttering a racial epithet towards Asian people. Now, I'm not mad at that, because I'm never gonna be, I'm for my people, but I'm never gonna be a dude who's prone on mistreatment. I'm not him. So if you want some bullshit and you disrespect that people do to the fact where they come from, that's just something that I cannot stand behind. I won't endorse that. I won't endorse that at all. I will not endorse that at all. But you gotta, I mean, shit, man, like, where's our set asides for us when they had no nigger allowed signs on the, you know, placard on the sides of people's establishments? Where's that shit at for us? You know what I'm saying? The same people who built the economic base of this country and a multitude of other countries. But to further expound on this shit, man, it was one thing about, you know, people get it fucked up. Like, they'll, you know, you'll see an uprising, you'll see a uptick in violence when overt and just deplorable acts of violence are, you know, bestowed on, you know, on our people. So in the sense of George Floyd, what they did to this man, how they tormented this man was, you know, he started hallucinating, you dig? Like, not enough oxygen was getting to this man's brain. He was, you know, crying out for his mom and all that shit. It was just a real disgusting medieval torture method in how they went about executing this dude. That right there is like, all right, we can't, had you shot him, we can hide behind reasonable doubt. Had you shot him, I'd have no problem with being on the jury panel looking to get you acquitted for these charges that you brought up on. But this is just something that I can't get with. This is just a little too over the top and OD. And now let's get out here and do the damn thing. Let's get out here. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna ride. We're gonna yada yada yada. Now, mind you, a lot of the people who were doing that are the same people who are acquitting a lot of these officers who could get, you know, when they shoot a black cop, not a black cop, but when they shoot a black man unjustifiably. These are the same people that sit there and, you know, when Freddie Gray had no criminal history, they brung up shit with his mom. They smeared him to show the cops who executed him in a positive light and not have to reprimand them for their wrongdoing. That's what they do. And a lot of the people, Asians as well, a lot of the people who did that shit are the same people who's, oh man, we can't allow this to happen. So we get, you know, it's a I don't even know how to put it in a context. They'll ride out to show, you know, to keep you sleep, deaf, dumb, and blind, or what it, you know, to their real ideologies and what it is that they, you know, that they pride themselves on. Asians are honorary Aryans, so they'll beat the drum for white supremacy, whatever, but they're also still deemed as minorities. So with them being minorities, there's certain set-asides that my people fought for that they're entitled to. So you ain't white, you ain't black, but you ain't white. You're a minority, you one of us. So it's easier to subjugate the people who, you know what I'm saying, when you don't hit them to the, you know, the skullduggerous ways of your mindset. You dig? It's easier to, you know, to get over on somebody when they don't know what's really in your heart. But what really baffled me was this right here. I don't have my pick in my head, but I have my pick, and at the back, and I've been wearing. These are the only type of picks I've got since high school. My hair is thick. It's the only pick that'll work. But this is it's the black fist, the fist of black power is on the back of that pick. This is sacred. I don't give a fuck what hood you in. I don't give a fuck what hood you from, what side of the flag you stand on. You drive down the block and it's 30 goons outside and you do this, they gonna give you that honor and give it back to you. It's solidarity as a people. You know what I'm saying? This is not up for appropriation. This is not up for infiltration. This isn't for anybody else but us. This is for us. I'm not going along with anybody who feels they can come and appropriate this and be one of, no, fuck all of that. Fuck all that. Nah. Find something else to explain. No, nah, we ain't having that. That's out. So around that time, now, like, I was never one of, it's niggas who was on this, oh man, stop Asian hate, stop. I wasn't one of them niggas. And as I said earlier, I'm not a dude who, you know, who's prone to be, oh man, get all of them, fuck all of them. Fuck all of them. Fuck them Asians. I'm not him. I'm not him, but I'm also not prone to propaganda neither. And a lot of that shit was propagated. This Asian hate shit. A lot of it was propagated. A lot of it was real, but a lot of it was propagated. And when I didn't speak on it and I made that my bit, I'm not doing it. I refuse to do that. I refuse to do that. And why did I do that? Outside of the fact that that's not my nation of people. But there's a multitude of videos of women, of sisters going into these beauty supply stores and these nail salons and getting violated by men, not just the women, the men. I seen a video, a dude took a broom over across the back of the sister's head. Like, you gotta think they control that market up here, man. They, you know, it's black women in them weave shops. We stimulate their economy like immediately. If sisters decided they wanted to stop getting bundles from Asians, man, they'd have to pack up. They'd have to find another lane of revenue. Our women stimulates that economy. So while you speaking on George Floyd and the acts of some crack-ass police officers, you need to speak on the mistreatment of our people by hands of your own. Now, I don't know which particular Asian nation of people control these markets, but up here, like, I'll go into a Chinese spot. It's nothing to see a Japanese man working there. It's nothing to see a Vietnamese, a Hmong. It's nothing to see Filipino. It's nothing to see these, you know, these different nationalities working in the spot. Now, I could be wrong on that, so let me I'll fall back on that. I'll fall back on that, because even the language it's still a language barrier between, you know, Asian nations, so I'll fall back on that. But up here, you got to be charged to the game. You got to be charged to the game. Because you wear the face. Nationally, you could be Korean, you could be Chinese, you could be Japanese. But we don't know that when we see you. I can't tell you the difference between a Japanese and a Chinese and a Filipino and you know, someone from Taiwan or Thailand. I can't tell you the difference between the two of them. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sure somebody from that, you know, from these, from Asian culture can, oh yeah, man, yeah, he's Chinese. I can tell by how he's dressing, the lingo that he uses. Yeah, he's Chinese. He's Japanese. He's Laos. So, my point is, I got lambasted on Facebook because some Asian group made a flyer with the, you know, with the fist up there talking about we stand in solidarity with black people or whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't get to talk about the mistreatment of us by the hands of police officers and not address your own. Now, one of the guys, when he was like, yo, you know, that's not us, you know, don't bunch us all together. I'm like, I can't allow the respect and the, you know, the love that I got for you to hinder me from speaking on this situation in the manner that it needs to be spoken on. You dig me? Because it isn't like it's just Chinese people, you know, suppressing us in these, you know, in these Chinese stores. They're Asian. I can't differentiate the nations between the. I can't do that because I'm just not hip to Asian culture like that. I'm honestly not. So whoever is in control of these, these markets up here that black people are prevalent in, y'all need to most definitely come to the forefront and chastise them before you say anything about a police officer killing a black man inhumanely like they did. Because y'all are not far off. Whoever's controlling these markets, y'all are not far off from doing that shit. We ain't forgot about Natasha Harlan in the Korean store in LA. We ain't forgot about that. We ain't forgot about that. So for this, I say that is why I do not cape for other nations. Now, these is just one in a few within the past year or two, as it pertains to black Americans and Africa. I get, I'm speaking for the, for on behalf of the brothers over there, my continental Africans. I'm speaking on behalf of them as well, but it speaks to my point as to why I don't do that, because of the mistreatment of them and how we get mistreated up here in our own, the country, the very country that we built, and why I won't do it. I refuse to do it. So yeah, man, that's what it is with me, man. And that's what it's just always gonna be with me. This is where I'm at. I'm standing 10 toes on this. Despite what happens, yo, you will have my sympathy. You'll have my understanding of what it means, you'll have my sympathy to the sense of to the acts of violence that's being bestowed on your people or those people. I'm sensitive to that. But I'm not about to be making a whole bunch of, social media statuses pertaining to that. I won't do it. I won't do it. I absolutely will not do it. We're not justifying Russia's acts to want to get their land back or bring them back into the, the Russian fold. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, I just won't speak on it. And it's harder to be it's hard to, be compassionate towards somebody when if I was over there, how do you think they would be doing me? If any black person was over there with the Ukrainians right now in this conflict zone, and they wanted to get on the bus, imagine being over there with your entire family. You want to get your family to safety. You are not a Ukrainian citizen. You may be there for school, and you possibly could be a citizen. You've seen a better life there. You decided, let's move to the Ukraine and get our weight up over there in the Ukraine. And now that this shit jumping off, this shit jumping like hydraulic pumps, you get kicked off of the bus. You are you are forced to flee the country through the wild, through hours upon hours upon hours of walking by foot to the Polish border, Hungary, Romania. That's the only way you can get out of these conflict zones. You can't cover as much ground as a car could, which puts you in imminent danger because you don't know where Russians are going to strike. You don't know if where they're going to come from, where they're going to invade the land from. You don't know any of that. And even the language that they're using, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know, are hip to the 14 words. The number 14 on any white man, tatted on any white man is that symbolism. Look into that. Look into that. Because it's another tool to propagate white supremacy, and why they need to subjugate as particular melanated people so they can secure a life for black, for white children. I forget the 14 words. But it's a slogan that white people use, white supremacists use. You dig me? It's just, I can't give them my shoulder to cry. I won't do it. I refuse to do it. But even with me not giving them my shoulder to cry on, I can still see the wrongdoing of how Vasily Lomachenko was treated. And that bothers me. I can see that Vasily Lomachenko was only being, you know, motherfuckers all of a sudden became bleeding heart patriots just because they wanted to see that man not have a fight before Devin Haney with George Kambosos. I can see that, and I can see how fucked up that is. I can see how corny it is that y'all didn't keep that same energy with Victor Postol so he could get that fight with Gary Antoine Russell and continue to catapult his career to where it needs to be. I can see that. And I can speak on that from a boxing standpoint. From a boxing standpoint. But as far as politics are concerned, no. I draw the line at boxing. I draw the line there. I draw the line there, man. Man. There was fucking free. That's another thing with the Ukraine. There were free Derek Chauvin banners at soccer games. Derek Chauvin, the dude who was responsible for kicking off the riots in 2020. The dude who put his neck on the back of the dude who put his knee on the back of George Floyd's neck and was charged for killing him. There's free Derek Chauvin or Chauvin, however you pronounce that devil's last name. There's free Derek so-and-so signs at the soccer games. And none of them were reprimanded for that. None of them were reprimanded for that. None of them. This is why I refuse to put on the capes. This is why I will never give them a shoulder to cry on. I'm not going to do that. And any black man who would is a sucker to me, honestly. You're a sucker. They wouldn't piss on you if you was on fire as it pertains to the Ukrainians over there and what's going on right now, man. But you're going to get him your shoulder to cry on. Not I, bro. Not I. I hope all of the innocent civilians, pure-hearted innocent civilians are able to make it, flee and make it to safety. The ones who do miss, public transportation, the public transportation routes. I hope y'all find another way to get to safety. I genuinely do. But y'all gotta hold the bag on this one, man. And another thing is, Biden is already talking about sending $6 billion to the refugee. They're talking about bringing Ukrainian refugees over here to America and offering them $6 billion. Refugees, man, right? Like this. Think about that shit. Just think about how this adds insult to injury, man. You can talk about setting aside $6 billion for Ukrainian refugees. Where's our reparations? Y'all spent trillions of dollars on stimulus checks. Where's our reparations? Where's our 40 acres and a mule? It's a multitude of immigrants coming over here, and they're being incentivized when they get over here. While we still in the ghettos of North America, and the very communities that we've called home since the 50s and the 60s, when them redlining, when that redlining and shit came down, now we're being forced out of that. We're being forced out of that due to gentrification, man. Like, when do we catch a break? This is why I don't throw on the capes for anybody. That's not saying I can't be the best